Hey there, my name is Heather Feather. I am the owner of Rare Bird Medicine, and today's topic is understood. When I was younger, often felt like I really wanted to be understood. And I remember there was a point at which my sister said, "You don't even understand yourself. Why do you need other people to understand you so much?" And I thought, wow, there's really a bit of wisdom in that. Like, do each of us really understand ourselves as comprehensively as we think we do? There's quite a bit I understand about myself because I tend to self-analyze. I tend to look at the self, but there's a lot that I miss. I often ask for feedback. I just did this with my niece where I asked for feedback. What do you think my growth edge is? What do you think, where do I need to evolve? And she gave deep, insightful, pointed places where evolution is certainly needed. In relationship, I tend to focus on the spiritual aspects of a person, and I tend to love them from my spiritual sight. And oftentimes, the physical, real world reality of what they're doing at Earth School with me is not a match to their spiritual selves. And so there's a little bit of needing to step into reality and be in the body and be present with what's actually going on with other two-leggeds. And so that was one example of the feedback she gave me that I was like, yeah, that 100% checks out. But in that conversation, we were talking about a concept that I had presented to her and I had presented to my friend and the shaman teacher that I train with. Where I was talking about, I don't ever want to speak ill of someone. I might be able to say in that relationship, I was learning this, or this was challenging that they did. I didn't understand that. I'm not that way. But I'm usually not wanting to name call people that I've dated or name call or like attack the character of others. I am always happy to come to an honest assessment of what I experienced, but I'm also aware this is my opinion and my interpretation of what it means to behave in XYZ manner. And as a general rule, I don't like to speak ill of others. I find that if I want to engender trust and others having a relationship of trust with Heather Feather, one of the ways that can occur is for me to never speak ill of others. Because if you witness that I never speak ill of others, then you can trust that I'm not going to be speaking ill of you when you're not in the room. And it's a massive practice of mine to do that and to, this is what I learned and this is what I gained from them being this way. I'm often looking for the silver lining in my relationships. And so I did a deeper dive on this topic when I was driving with my niece for the second time to the hot springs. And she was giving me this feedback. And she was like, well, I feel like, sometimes they're being very unpleasant. And that's also a reality. And I was like, yeah, and I don't understand them. I don't know them. I don't see all the lifetimes of experience they've had. I don't see every little thing that was put in their basket that makes them be XYZ way with me in any given moment of now. So who am I to get on my high horse and judge them and assess that they are unworthy of my love because they're behaving in a manner that I don't understand, but they're also behaving from a matrix that is not my own. And she could really hear me. It was nice to be understood. There's a point in the conversation where she was like, that's a very you're really pulling back 1,000 feet and looking at things from a very spiritual perspective. And it's a very compassionate way to look at things. And she was saying as well, and I think you get hurt a lot in relationship because there can be a lot of foolishness going on. And you would more quickly come to, I think, the conclusion that you don't want to be with XYZ person if you were giving more direct attention to what they're doing in the physical world that doesn't work for you. Now, we can ask ourselves, was my niece right or was I right? And this is where I think we have a tremendous amount of challenge at our school as humans to come to truth and understand the truth because we're both right. She's right. I do need to keenly evaluate and be hyper present with how someone is physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually engaging with me at Earth School. In addition, it is supportive for me to be able to pull back and receive someone from the spiritual understanding of the light of love that they are in order to offer forgiveness if I come into a space of judgment with them and if I get on my high horse, in order to have a space of empathy or compassion for something that I might not necessarily understand in a given moment of now. And so two things can be true at the same time and also be opposites even. And I feel like a lot of what is getting lost in communication in the modern age is that there is the truth and then there's falsehood. And when you're talking to someone, you're either talking to someone that is aligned with the truth or is aligned with falsehood. And this is where a lot of times we find that what is being said is not understood. It's not understood because it doesn't align with your truth. You go, no, this is my truth. You should always be spiritual. You should always be unconditionally loving. You should always be able to see people in their highest. You should always understand that a given ugly moment is not the entire matrix of a being. You should always be able to remember their graces, even in a darkened hour of their behavior. And although there can be truth in what I just said, it can also behoove a person to not be in a space of toxic femininity in which you're overly willing to receive toxic behaviors from another person that don't actually match your desire, because it's ultimately not necessary at all. You can also get people out of your life. You don't have to be rude. You don't have to be gruff. You don't have to be unkind. You can be compassionate, but you can also say, this doesn't work for me. I don't understand it. And it's not something I'm wanting to understand. So I'm going to thank you for the opportunity to connect, but I don't choose to anymore. You can also be sovereign and offering yourself space from that which does not work for you. And so I want to flush up a distinction in this video between a truth and the truth. I give credit to my ex, Saya, for this because he really flushed this up in my consciousness, and I stew on it and chew on it a lot. There is a concept of the absolute truth, the truth. In my experience, the majority of conversations that two-leggeds are having have absolutely nothing to do with the truth. And I find that it is for that reason and this belief that they do know the truth that experiencing other people understanding is not occurring. Because if you think you hold the truth and you think someone else doesn't have it, you think you have a gift you need to give them. And in reality, you hold a bunch of opinions. You hold a version of truth. You hold a way things can be thought of. Recently we had politicking, right? And so you can be liberal or conservative or some wild variation of that, which is what most people are, depending on the given topic. We're meant to be polarized into these two systems so that we can fight amongst ourselves. Or you can be apolitical like me, and you can go, I don't care about politics at all because I'm not going to divide against my brethren. And then there are people that can come to me and say, the truth is, Heather, if you've got to vote, and if you don't vote, then you're denying people that you love their rights. And I hear that, but I don't make decisions based out of hysteria and fear. And what I also know to be true is that irrespective of what laws have ever occurred throughout all of the annals of time, most people will go home and do what they want to do with themselves. We're not like martial law isn't present. We're not in a paradigm under which everyone is being observed. I mean, certainly through your device, but not much is being done about you being observed through your device at home every day. And so somebody could say to me, it's like unjust of you to be apolitical. And I would say, okay, that is a truth. That is that person's truth, but it's not my truth. My truth is I'm not going to divide against my brethren. And I find politicking causes people to go toe to toe, nose to nose, righteous to righteous, fight to fight, and to be in a deep emotional state about not getting their win and it's like, what are we doing? This is one narrow aspect of life. And we are a little bit overly invested, in my personal opinion, in getting on our high horse about our perspectives and knocking our brethren off of their horse because our perspective is so right. You need to get on my high horse and you need to be in my opinion. And life has always been diverse. We've never had everybody agree on economics, on politics, on diversity, on life choices, on sexuality, on, you can look at Kinsey's work and look at the Kinsey scale and see the Kinsey scale of sexuality. And you can look at the scientific tests that have been done. And you can also completely deny those and be like, it's male and female, always has been. And that is a truth that people hold that is not actually true. We've always had intersex beings. They used to be called hermaphrodites. That's a slanderous term now. We've always had 3 gender expressions. If you're just considering scientific doctor gender expressions, there's 2 spirits in the native tradition. There are many different ways that actually gender has been expressed throughout the annals of time. And so it's like you can pick any given topic that's really heated and it has a lot of energy on it. And what you'll find is that all of the perspectives are present when you consider 8 billion people, which is the current We're a little bit above 8 billion people at Earth School right now. And so what I want to do is understand. And so what I'm always asking myself, even if somebody is saying a bunch of things I deeply disagree with. I just had a dear friend that is very divergent from me, and he and I think very differently on a whole bunch of topics. And what I was doing my best to do in our communication and conversation is to understand his perspective. And I would dig, like, I still don't quite understand that. Can you explain that to me more? I would keep digging until I would feel like, okay, I feel like I can understand to some degree what it means to stand in your shoes with that truth, with a truth that is your perspective. That's not the truth I hold, but I appreciate it. I can see why that would be a truth. I can see why you would hold that truth, And so I'm not walking that person's life, and I'm not holding that person's truth, and I'm a different person, and I have a divergent truth. But I don't think that what I believe is the truth. Here's an example of the truth, an absolute truth. Love is. That is an absolute truth. You're welcome to disagree with it even. Also, there would be people at Earth School right now that would fight me about that absolute truth. Love is. How do I know that's an absolute truth? I've felt it. I've read Rumi. I've heard other people experience it. There can be familial love. There can be romantic love. There can be friend love. I've seen many variations of it. I've experienced it a tremendous amount in my own temple. And it is a offering that's daily present in my being, irrespective of how anyone's experiencing me. Love is often present in the interaction. And so I always work to shore up to make sure that my expression, which can often feel insular, introverted, and hidden with all my Scorpionic and Cancerian nature, I work to make it more articulated that love is present. I don't always succeed at that. But what I do know is that love is. The more we get into defining that, we find this complexity that many of the poets throughout the annals of time, that many of the masters throughout the annals of time have had a unique experience trying to quantifiably define what that is. What does that mean love is? What is love like? Is love always patient? Can it be fast? Does love have to be tender and sweet? Or can it be aggressive and rowdy? You know what I mean? What does it mean love is? So I find that absolute truths are typically very simple. They are eternal. There's not a point in time that you can point to where that wouldn't be true. They don't have the tremendous complexity of our opinion sacks bumping up against one another with a truth. Here's Heather, and here's a truth I hold. A truth that I hold is that I don't think stopping abortion supports humanity because of population overload and because of all the children in orphanages. However, I do appreciate that many people experience the idea of killing a fetus as killing a baby, and therefore killing a soul, or I don't know, keeping a soul from incarnating. I'm not sure what the full train of thought is in that because I don't hold that philosophy. I do know that I'm not right about my ideas. They're my truths. They're a truth that I hold in my multiverse. And I do know that they're on every single topic in the universe, no matter how heated, no matter how charged, somebody has the ability to hold that truth in another way. The concept of Black Lives Matter. I've heard a lot of people say that, like, I don't like this concept because you're saying racism, let's get rid of racism. And then you're saying, focus on color, though, really focus on color. Be separate in how you engage with color, right? And so there are a lot of people I've heard that have a conversation. And my conversation has always been, yes, but when you've had a pendulum swing really far into trauma, it's okay to bring the pendulum back and give people a minute to feel their trauma, to feel their pain, to express that their lives matter. We're not necessarily lickety-splitly going to be in a new place after having had so many decades of trauma. And it's okay for the pendulum to swing, because I received that teaching from a friend named 11 ages ago. And there's great wisdom in that too. But the funny thing is we're taking very polarized dynamics often, and we're being like, I'm right because blah, blah, blah. And if you would just have the right answer, you too could be right. In reality, you hold a truth, many a truths that are your truths. but it's not necessarily the truth. And there are many, many perspectives on every given topic. Can we understand? Is it possible to say understood with those that you are talking to? You can always subscribe to Rare Bird Medicine on YouTube, like and comment there. I love your thoughts.